Now, do you both know Ryan Sanzari?
No, I don't.
You don't? Okay. Well, you learned. Hey, Ryan, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Right on time. So I always like to start right at 12 because we have, the three of you are three of my favorite family business people, my favorite people. So this is going to be fun for me too. And I can fill up the hour with each one of you, but to have three is great. So first I want to welcome everybody to our Family Business Friday, our Zoom at noon call. I am actually in a different location here, but it's worked out well. Going to really see some folks that are currently leading and are the future as well of family businesses. But first, for those that don't know, the Rothman Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship is at Fairleigh Dickinson University. Our focus is really to promote, support, research, veteran, urban, student, and family business entrepreneurship. And we do that through writing, through advocacy, through programs, and other things. And so we're just very, very excited about everything we do, but especially the family businesses, because it just amazes me how little people in influence know about how important family businesses are to the economy, to employment, and so on. And so what I'd like to do is go around and we'll have you introduce yourself. Ryan, if you could do a 1-minute introduction, that would be great.
Sure. Ryan Sanzari, president of Alfred Sanzari Enterprises. I represent the third generation of Sanzaris in the family business, and we've been operating since 1945.
Excellent. Courtney, what about you?
Good afternoon. My name is Courtney Villani. I'm also third generation of Villani Bus Company, a school and charter bus transportation company started with my grandfather in 1919. We're in our 102nd year.
102 years. It's just amazing to me that to think that, and just 3 generations in the 102 years is pretty incredible too. Dennis Mccool.
Good afternoon, Dennis Mccool Contracting, also third generation. We just turned 75 years this year, and we're excavating and demolition contractor.
Excellent. So next I want to say, when did you? Because so often as I talk to family businesses, folks grow up in the business and say, well, I'm never going to work. That's great, but I never going to work there. So Courtney, I'll start with you. When did you get a sense that you were going to work in the family business?
I was 3 years old pushing tires around thinking I was a mechanic. So if you ask me, I was already there full time all the time.
Yeah.
My father, in 6 months after 9/11, my father had a heart issue and some other health issues. And so I came over and started helping out a little bit just to relieve the burden, so to speak. He was part of the great generation, and he not just had the business, but was the business. Mm-hmm. The business and he were one and the same. And I just felt so appreciative of every opportunity it had given me. And it was so important to him. I felt a sense of obligation to do the right thing and help out with the business, not knowing or expecting to like it at all, happening to love it.
And so what were you doing when you came over to help? Well,
I have no idea. No, see, this is the thing about family businesses. It's not like anybody comes in and they're like, okay, thank you for coming here. This is what we'd like you to do. Here's a clear description of what you should be doing, and an expectation, a timeline, and all those things. They're like, oh, so-and-so's not here today. Can you do payroll? I'm like, sure. Charter? Okay. Yeah, dispatch, safety, no problem. I'd only like to have 6 jobs at once, please. Thank you.
So a utility player. So Dennis, what about you? When did you know
I see the smile on Ryan's face, and I think we've all been through those experiences that Courtney has.
Right.
Same thing. Probably 3-4 years old.
Uh-huh.
I grew up. This was my sandbox. Everybody had Tonka toys. I had Caterpillar and John Deere that I grew up on, and growing up, I learned a lot of great lessons, from my grandfather and my father. If I wanted to play baseball and get a baseball mitt, I swept the floors. If I now wanted to get a baseball bat, I washed the trucks down, and and learned all that from the ground up. So very early on, I was involved in our family business, multiple things. And as it's grown, very similar to what Courtney just said, you kind of just pick up roles as you needed to. Growing up, younger, being a laborer on job sites. And then I was in the 90s putting computers in. Well, that turned into invoicing, that turned into payroll, that turned into everything. And then when the websites, started becoming relevant, getting our first company website. So I took that project, and you kind of just go where you're needed in a family business. There is no specific, title or role or everything. I find a lot of it is as needed. Like Courtney said, you just kind of pick up what's needed and add value wherever you can.
Wonderful. And Ryan, what about you? When did you know that you were going to jump into this family business thing?
A lot of similarities to Courtney and Dennis. I have a feeling that's not going to be the first time that I say that today on this call. But I was exposed to the family business from a young age. Where I'm talking to you from today is Glen Point in Teaneck, and I remember being here, as far back as I can remember. I mean, I was here. I've seen pictures of myself, crawling around here in a diaper, and I remember coming here on weekends with my father, and then my godfather is actually the one that really exposed me to a lot of the job sites and the construction aspects of what our business does and what we do. So teenage years, like Dennis, I was a laborer, working for whatever money they were willing to pay me, picking up sheet metal and throwing down sweeping compound and trying not to make, the space. Just a quick story. I remember like my first day, I didn't know what sweeping compound was. They said, clean up the space. And my friends and I are just sweeping, and then they walked in, they couldn't even see 3 feet in front of them because there was so much dust. They're like, what the hell are you guys doing? So anyway, that was really more for like, the beer money back then. It wasn't really connected to any sort of passion or long-term plan. I decided to join the family business not until I was about 22 years old. At that point, I had taken the LSAT. I was a poli-sci major, and I was all but certain that I did not want to go into the family business. And everything else just didn't seem to be working out the way that I had hoped. So I was like, I'll give it a shot. And I ended up falling in love with it. All those years where I was being exposed to it when I was younger ended up coming full circle back around. And a lot of that stuff that maybe I took for granted, I definitely took for granted and didn't really value that much when I was younger, it actually stuck, and I ended up, falling in love with it.
Well, one of the things, so I have a show called Family Business World. Dennis and Courtney have been on it. Ryan, I want to get you on the show. And I talked to so many different family businesses. We've had, like 50 shows. And when the folks start out sweeping floors, doing things when they're young, they can go off and do something else, but they're more likely to come back because they value the business. See, the hard work you were doing then, you realize, and so now I'm in charge of this thing that I was sweeping floors when I was 5 years old. And so that's, for those of you who have a family business, that is so important to know, is that don't start them out as a senior VP, really get them working the business and work every aspect of the business. And it's amazing how consistent that is, and people that don't do that are so anxious to sell the business. So let's go around. So what is the business? So Courtney, what do you folks do? And then Dennis, and then Ryan.
School and charter bus transportation. We can take you around the corner or from coast to coast. Yellow buses or motor coaches.
And so you have contracts with school districts, you have private contract, and how many buses do you have?
100-ish.
I mean, when I went to your place, I was so impressed with how big this family business is. It's pretty sizable, pretty significant. And so Dennis, what does Mccool Contracting do?
So we're an excavation and demolition contractor. We work for a lot of environmental consultants and builders and developers in the state. We work both commercial and residential clients. So, yeah, I just want to add something you said interesting when we were talking about sweeping the floors and everything. And with Courtney and Ryan, I think there's a lot of pride too when you come back having your name on the business. You see your buildings, you see your buses, you see your equipment out there. And I always go back to, when I see our equipment on our sites for what we're doing, I think there's a lot of pride that goes into that, but that started in the younger years.
Mhm.
So
And so Ryan, so there are kind of two major Sanzari companies in New Jersey. So let's talk about the business that you're in.
Yeah, so a common mix up, if you will, that I get a lot is I see you guys all over the highways, and you created the traffic jam that made me late for work today, or things like that. And that's actually not our company. That's Joe Sanzari Construction. So they do all the major highway work, and probably see their name a little more than you'll see ours. So we're commercial.
They're cousins, right? They're related. They're cousins.
We are, yes. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yes, we are cousins,
Right.
but very separate businesses. But yes, cousins, close, good relationship between the companies. But yeah, so Alfred Sanzari Enterprises, we do commercial real estate development and management. So everything that we own today and manage, for the most part, we have built ourselves. We're not a contractor for hire. So while we do construct and develop our own buildings, and we build out spaces for tenants and have a construction department, at least to date, we have not been a contractor that you would approach, to build something for you. It's, similar to Dennis, excavating or whatever that contractor or subcontractor may specialize in. So that's basically it. Commercial, residential, and hospitality are the real estate uses within our portfolio.
And hotels, you have, what hotels do you have?
We have 3 hotels. They're all right here in Teaneck. We have a Marriott and a dual branded hotel, which is, it looks like one hotel, but it's 2 in 1. And that's a Hampton Inn and Suites and Homewood Suites.
Wonderful. And as I said, I mean, one of the things I'm trying, and Sue Slavin and our office really put out this social media thing to take a picture with the family business, support a family business, take a picture with the family business. And so my goal is to spend all my money just with family businesses. So, if we can try to do that and try to support that. And so as you think about, there's a professor online, Scott Livengood, who's a professor at Arizona State University, and he and I talk about the entrepreneurial mindset. And all 3 of you have this entrepreneurial mindset, this mindset of growth, this mindset of doing. And so how do you cultivate that in your companies? How do you cultivate this entrepreneurial mindset? Because if you don't change, you're moving backwards. So you have to adapt to what's going forward. So talk to me about that. Any one of you.
A lot of my guys and girls in our office have their own businesses.
Okay.
And so I welcome that. A couple of the girls are creative and do like crafty things. So bring it on in, have the guys in the shop cut it out. I don't, it's not about managing the minutes and hours. It's about giving them the space to do what they need to do. And if they get something else done for them at the same time, then good for them, good for us. We all work hand in hand together. They knock it out of the park for me. So it's the least I can do to do my best for them and be supportive.
Wonderful. Dennis, you're always looking forward and so on. How do you cultivate that?
I think you have you're open to ideas. Like like Courtney and Ryan, probably you never stop learning. Every single day we're on the job, we're learning. We're learning from our employees, we're learning from our clients, we're learning from our family, we're learning from, and having, that willing to change, willing to be open mindset. So somebody, again, walks into your office and has a suggestion, has an idea, to be willing to listen to them so you continue to grow. I think it's the hardest thing. And I'm sure everybody on this panel can talk about it. But going, from generation to generation 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, there's a lot of things in our businesses that have been done very well for a very long time. But you need to continue to adapt and change in order to keep up with, not only your competition, you just want to keep up with everybody out there as far as your growth mindset. So I think there's a million ways to do something, but listening to everybody has been what we've been doing for years, and then taking the best ideas and being able to, you're going to fail on some of these ideas. I mean, we all have, you're going to fail on something you try, but you just keep moving forward. You just keep pushing forward. So that's kind of, what has helped us get through the generations.
Ryan, what about you? Keeping this entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah, definitely agree with everything that was just said. Certainly instilling a sense of ownership across your organization, regardless of what your last name is, and really making, not only communicating this, but really backing up your words by giving your team members the tools, the support, the resources that they need to feel like they're really part of this organization or a organization today and looking ahead. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it may be my family's name that's on the door, but it wouldn't be up there for very long. If not for the, several owners of the company, if you will, that we certainly try to have with our team, so really making them feel like that they are a part of this, because they are, and without them, we're going to fail, and that we're all in this together.
Yeah, if I can just share one thing. So Dennis, you said about the learning something new every day. My father had a penchant for that and a passion for learning something new every day and using it and sharing it. So he, cut out little pieces of newspaper, write in pencil on the edge and parameters, and make sure everybody had a little note of something so that they could also absorb something new. But also my high school band director had 4 letters above his band room door, and it was CANI. For constant and never-ending improvement. And so every day I try to think, what can I do to better the situation, better myself? And when somebody comes with a problem to me that I don't necessarily see an answer to, because I'm not always going to see all the answers, okay, what should we do? Is what I ask. What do you suggest? You see it better than I do if you're dealing with it on the daily. Tell me, if you're having a problem, then you're probably one of many. So tell me, what do you think I should do, and see if we can make it happen. And I remember my cousin one time, I was fixing up some dispatch papers for our drivers. And every day it went in the same order. This is how we do things. And he came and he moved something. And I was like, he said, this isn't the only way to do it. I said, oh, what? Epiphany, right?
Right. That's I love constant and never-ending improvement. That really is, and it's more important now, I think, than ever. And so, just so you know, so if you hear some back, Courtney is all three are in high demand, but Courtney has a 1 to 3 panel that she's going to, with which chamber?
The Greater Elizabeth Chamber of Commerce,
And so
Elizabeth, New Jersey.
So she's there early, and so you'll hear some background noise. And
Sorry about that. That's why I keep muting.
No, that's okay. No, that's good. So yeah, Ryan, picking up on what you said. So, people know your businesses. You have the last name. When you grew up, and unless you work with family businesses, you don't really understand how hard it is. I think people out there think, oh, family businesses, the millions just fall into your pocket. It's so easy. And so when you work with them, you realize how many hours. I mean, this is a 24/7 job. But as you're growing up, how do you deal with your name, your last name, which is a blessing and a curse? It's like, spoiled. He can do all sorts of mistakes because how have you guys personally dealt with that growing up?
Well, right or wrong, and just, in the interest of being totally transparent and answering that question, I really just downplayed it to the best I could. Anytime I was in a situation where my name would have any sort of impact on, or in my mind, have an impact on someone's perception of me. You know, I may not, for example, when I was working as a laborer, you know, I didn't tell any of the carpenters that I was working with my last name. And it wasn't until one day, like 2 months into the summer, where my dad came on to the job site and spoke to me. And the guy who I was working for said, "How do you know that guy?" I said, "Oh, that's my dad." He goes, "That's your father?" So that was kind of it in a nutshell for me. You know, I really did not and do not today really like the attention. It's even if I did, I'm not going to stand behind the accomplishments of people who, and my family and the company that came before me, when I haven't even done a damn thing to deserve, a shred of recognition. So I really have and had then just sort of downplayed it, tried to avoid it at all costs. And then as I grew up and started realizing more and more how, people are going to have their opinions and perceptions that you just can't control, what other people think. And at the end of the day, people probably aren't thinking about you all that much. We all have our own things to worry about, and just focus on what you can control and just, keep your eyes forward.
What about you, Dennis? Your dad, I think, is watching, and
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I think grew up in Clifton, and our family business has been in Clifton my entire life, 3 generations, 75 years. And I think when I was younger, again, I think I had a pride. And then it was interesting because going through high school and I was starting to look at schools and starting to figure out what path I wanted, the amount of people that guidance counselors, coaches would be like, "Oh, why are you looking at that? You're just going to go into the family business anyway." And I think a lot of people assume that, you're just going to go. My advice to anybody in family business is to step out of it for a little while, kind of say, work for everybody. You guys both shaking your heads. We all know, work for somebody else, get different opinions, get different ideas, and come back in. But I think there's always assumption that you're going to, the name you're going to carry on. I'm here because I want to be here. I had opportunities. I was a coach for a while. I could have taken that path. I could have went that, but I'm here because, the pride, and I was talking about before, the pride in the last name, continuing it, taking it from the 2nd generation to the 3rd generation and moving it forward here because we all want to be here, and I think, and Ryan had a great point. There's always going to be a lot of noise, but it's just keeping focus, growing, moving forward. And a lot with the family businesses is I think the hardest is, from the founders, from the 1st generation to the 2nd generation to the 3rd, we all want to put our marks on the business while still working forward with the work ethic that started with generation number 1, or else we all wouldn't be here in these businesses. We might have our own, it might be something else, but that's the biggest thing that I see, as far as, the last name, the pride in it. And I know we all do, because we all have the names attached to our businesses.
Well, but also I think it's important for the audience that doesn't know, and I'll let you speak, Courtney, is that you folks could be spoiled. And so you are among the nicest people I know. You care about people who are struggling. I mean, really, it really, and I underscore that, because you really could be different people, but you genuinely are people that actually care. That's why you're 3 of my favorite people. And I think it's important. Courtney, you were going to say something?
Yes, very similarly. I used to joke around and still joke around that I used to be a person. I used to have a life before I came to work full time at the business. And I also, whenever I went anywhere, I never gave my last name because I wanted to be treated as a person, not just an entitled person.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see how they treated my guys that I showed up with. And on several occasions, they saw the name tag and let me go right through. And the two guys that I came with were stuck. And I said, not me without them.
Yeah, good. And that's who you are. And so the other thing that if you work with family businesses, you realize there is probably no better organization to work for than a family business, because it's better than nonprofits, it's better than government, because but the stereotype is, oh, you use people. No, you folks do so much more. So talk about that. You all treat, because you know how important employees are. Talk about some employee stories for the audience.
Well, I think people outside of family businesses think that unless they're members of the family, then they don't realize. It was a pleasure. I got to know and respect my mother and father as people and individuals, not just as mom and dad. We always take mom and dad for granted, even unknowingly.
Yep.
But you see how much they went through in any given day and how much they put away to come to the table and focus on what they love the most is their family. And that to me was like the gift that I'm most grateful for.
But now you also do great stuff for your employees, the non-family employees. So talk to me about that. Because I know you do some great things.
We just try to be understanding and flexible. So from the beginning, my father, like I said, was part of the great generation, but he was always into essentially like flex time before it was a thing. So a lot of the ladies in the office were ladies in the office, working mothers, and the priority is family. So it's not about managing the minutes or hours, like I said before. It's about making sure that people have the opportunity and the leeway and the flexibility to do what they need to do. And if we put them first and treat them with respect, because they're doing their everything for us. So why wouldn't we do everything we can for them as well?
I'm not sure what happened here. That's weird. Is that someone sharing that? Is it? No, that's weird. Now, what about Dennis? What about you? What are some of the things you and I have been talking about employing and your apprenticeship program? Talk a little bit about what you're doing for the non-family employees.
So I think it's interesting because, when we were up for Family Business of the Year, I was looking at a couple different avenues. And one of the things that's, family members, you have a lifetime, you're in it for life. But it was really interesting looking back at the average tenure of our quote unquote Mikula family member. And right now, anybody that's been with us for over a year, I think it was 18 or 19 year average tenure, wow, for non-family. And that's what we are most proud of. You talk about, if you're looking at your employees, when we come to renew our health plan, right? My wife and my daughter are on the health plan that I'm renewing for everybody in our program, everybody here in our business. So you look at it, if you look at everybody as family, to me, I think it's easy. Safety is very important with us. We're a heavy equipment contractor. We're out there every day. There's excavation, demolition, there's sites. And I've heard my father say it 1,000 times. The number one thing is you come back home safe every single day. That's to every single employee. If it's not safe, we're not doing a job, And again, if there's anything, you hear some stories out there in all of our industries and everyone is treated the same. Everybody's treated as if they are family because they are. It makes it easy. If you look at everybody under one whole umbrella as a family, that's why it's like Ryan says, I kind of feel sometimes, right, how did it get to the third generation? Because this was instilled in the generations before us. This was instilled, from my father up, my grandfather to him, looking at everybody, as a family member and such an important part. And ideas too. You're not just taking ideas from family, you're taking ideas from everybody that walks in. Hey, I have a suggestion to do this better. We can make this safer. We can make this more efficient. You listen, you implement it, you try. Not all of them work, but you give that open forum. And I think those are the little things. It's not always salary. It's listening to your employees' needs. Everybody wants to make more money out there. Everybody wants more, but a lot of times just being open, listening to what your employees have to say, and then trying to implement that.
Wonderful.
Appreciation and expression of appreciation.
Yeah. Well said, Courtney. Ryan, what about you? You have a lot of long-term employees.
Yeah, we certainly did. By the way, so someone I work with asked me to take a screenshot so she, she works on our marketing team. So
Okay.
I tried to do that before and I was like, I think I'm sharing my screen. Okay, I'm just gonna stop
Okay. That's all right.
pressing buttons. So sorry about that. We've been incredibly fortunate and lucky to have really a family, within the family business. And that's the most commonly used words when describing like the culture within our office and our company. We've got several employees active who have been with us for at least 15 years. We just last week, we sadly said goodbye to an employee who was with us for 22 years, and she retired. We obviously are very happy for her, but it was just incredible, when you have these moments to sort of stop, reflect, and realize how special something like that is, and to see the emotions of both her and my father and a lot of my colleagues when we were saying goodbye to her. It just is a reminder, like, wow, this really is a special place in its own right, as I'm sure Courtney and Dennis's companies and so many others are as well. But yeah, I think what was said already by Courtney and Dennis, I completely agree with. So not to belabor it, but really in keeping the employees as part of this ownership team to the best of your ability is just, I can't stress it enough. It's one thing to put up the suggestion box or put out the suggestion box, but it's another thing if you're not going to take those suggestions and actually, follow up and, implement some of them. Otherwise, that the amount of suggestions that are submitted are going to start to dwindle, and people are going to think, am I really, part of this? Am I really, I know they say that and it sounds nice, but how real is that? So, the action side of things is more important than what is said.
Well, and one of our other family business partners was saying they had someone retired after 25 years and said, I kind of woke them up. That's what the business is all about. Families have good jobs. You change families, jobs that they love, and that changes their life. And so that's really an important part of it. So now all three of you, I know, were impacted heavily by the pandemic. You've been able to work through and what have you learned from the pandemic? And if you want to share some of the challenges you had, what are you going to do differently as we come through this, hopefully, knock on wood, out of this pandemic in 2022?
Improve communication. That's always something. No matter how much you do, you're always doing 50% of what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
I've even before COVID, so I have a son who's 3.5. And when I was 20 weeks pregnant, I lost my mom and I lost my father 3 weeks before his first birthday. So all that being said, I of course wish I could have them here every day with me, but I'm grateful for the relationship and the good time that we did have together. I'd take a quality relationship, unfortunately cut short, versus a strained or difficult relationship. So, and they're always with us no matter what.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I just saw somebody that I haven't seen in ages, and it was wonderful to see him. And he was a good friend of my father's, and it was just, sorry, it just happened at the right moment, So sorry about that. But through that, our team has come together so much, and they're so protective of me. Sometimes people have a hard time, like they feel like they don't want to bother me, right? So to your point about the suggestion box, I'm like, it's crickets up here. What's going on? Where's everybody's feedback? Tell me what's happening. And I can't be downstairs at dispatch every day when everybody's coming and going to see and hear and, really have an eye on it as much as I need to be. It's just different roles at different times, right? So I was reaching out to some of my drivers this year, and they're like, it's been a year and a half since some of them have had to drive because their district was closed. Maybe they weren't able to because of childcare. And the only thing is that communicate until they're sick of hearing from you. And listen, like you both said, and have faith. Because I can't promise the world. I'm never going to. I'd rather under promise and over deliver any day of the week. And I can't always do everything, but I will always do my best. And so as long as my people know that I'm going to continue fighting for them and with them, and that I've got their back, then I really feel fortunate because I know that they have mine. You've heard the school bus shortage out there right now, and most contractors are operating at a 20% deficit daily, unable to meet 20% of their.
Wow.
And I'm so grateful. I'm knocking on anything that might be wood. So grateful to say we're operating at over 100%.
Wow. Wow.
And it's because of great people, great people. And it's it's a little rusty coming back, So it takes people a little bit of time to figure out where they, how to get back into the swing of things. But just a sincere appreciation and reaching out and communication.
Well, it's funny. I've been doing consulting for 20 years, and even in big companies, when the leadership has a certain culture, it permeates the whole organization, especially with a family business. And so, Courtney, I know with your style and your culture, your approach, your approachableness, and makes that culture. And Dennis and Ryan, the same thing. So, Dennis, what as you come out of this pandemic, what have you learned, and how do you view things differently?
I think number one, going through the pandemic, from a family business standpoint was, everybody's safety, their health and their safety. Again, a father in the business, a brother in the business, uncles in the business, so how are we going to come out of this safe? And then I think it's two things. I think it's efficiency. I think there were some things during the pandemic that, kind of like Courtney, how can we do things a little more efficient now, and with the communication, right? And flexibility, we've had the ability to be flexible, different, and look at different things and different ways we could handle things, whether it's in the office or out on the field, right? I mean, there's always different ways again. So, I think coming out of it really had you take a look at your entire process, right? Were we able to be said, is this the last time how would we handle it differently? The one thing we wouldn't handle differently is how everybody was safe. We kept everybody, everybody during the pandemic, we were as safe as we could possibly be. But there are definitely things we found out, ways we can improve our flexibility and efficiency in our overall process.
Wonderful. That's great. Ryan, what about you? Coming out of this, what have you learned?
I don't know if we have enough time for me to go through everything I've learned, but just a couple things. I mean, perspective, one thing I've certainly learned is that, we're not, you grow up, as we were saying before, you grow up, with this last name and with this reputation that comes along with your respective family and success. And that's all, good and great in one hand. And then you go through something like the pandemic and you realize like, wow, we're not invincible, for the first time since I've been at the company. I mean, it was really like a reality check. I mean, that people can stop coming to buildings or hotels or, empty. We went from collecting revenue to just writing checks to keep the lights on. So that perspective and that lesson, I think, is really important certainly for me and at this point in my professional and personal life, just understanding that you can lose something if you're even you could be doing all the right things. And I mean, think about how many businesses and lives were completely destroyed and disrupted by the pandemic. So really valuing what we have. Certainly, as I believe Dennis had said, the resiliency and the adaptability of our team and our company. If someone were to have told me 10 years ago that there's going to be an event that takes place that is going to cause us to all work completely remotely, I would laugh out loud, because that thought that would just be a joke in my mind. But to see us able to adapt and perform at the same time was really encouraging. But I definitely think the perspective that I walked away with was probably the most significant thing.
So what advice, we have a number of family businesses and small business owners who watch this now or watch the tape of this. So what advice, you're all experienced leaders now. You've had many years under your belt, you've experienced. So if you're running and your businesses are larger than a lot of family businesses, but what advice, would you give to people, or would you give to yourself, knowing what you know now as you were starting? What have you learned?
I don't know if we have enough time. Like,
one or two things that stand out.
I think what I've learned through the years is there are multiple ways to do, to improve your process. If there's one thing, looking back, maybe when I was a little younger, saying, "Oh, this, you come in, this is the way I want to make this change." And I think sometimes you overlook what has been successful. Yes, there's more ways to make it more efficient, but looking back, like, we all try and, again, I think it's in the family, we try to put our mark on it. So looking back, I wish if I had to change one thing looking back, it was completely understand the process of whatever the function was before trying to make a suggestion of a change, and then just tweaking it that way. And I think, something I pride. The second thing is get outside perspective, outside of your family business, outside of your family. Get out there, talk to other businesses. I'd love to have a sit down at coffee or lunch with Courtney and Ryan. How did you guys handle this? We're all in. We're in, but we have different perspectives of how we handle different things. So I think that's very important. That's something that's a number one advice. Get out there and talk to people. Talk to people that have been there. Listen to people that have been there. I'm very fortunate. I'm in the office with my father every single day. He's been through this all. How did you handle this? How should we handle it? Put our minds together, but get an outside perspective as well, I think, is something that I would advise.
Yeah. Ryan, Courtney, what do you think?
Definitely, one of the dangers, if you will, of a family business is lacking external view in more ways than one. And if I were to go back, or if I were to be giving someone advice today, absolutely, I think that's so important to be getting advice from as many people as possible, and then establishing and formulating your own opinion going forward based off what you've learned internally and what you can gather externally to make the best decisions possible. Also, something Dennis said that I thought was interesting was that understanding that it's funny, it kind of works both ways, meaning like the younger generation should not think that because they've got meaning me in this case, should not think that I know the best way, when for 76 years this company has been successful doing it another way. So understanding that you don't know everything, I mean, that's a lesson that can apply to anyone in any situation, is very important. But also, if you're the older generation, or the second generation in our company's case, speaking with the third generation, you know, maybe there is a different way to do it than we've always done it. You know, and I know Courtney was talking about this before, but I hate the words, well, that's the way we've always done it.
Right. Yeah.
That's just the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely something to be said about being flexible and willing, being open-minded on both ends of that spectrum.
That's really powerful. Courtney, what do you say?
Planning and communication. Make a plan, make a plan, make a plan. Expect it to change 900%. Be ready to change with it and be fluid. Don't be all, the sky is falling. Nobody cares what Chicken Little thinks. Nobody cares. Don't be the Chicken Little. Nobody wants to be around Chicken Little. So, you know, just things are going to change every day. Roll with it. You know, you're the river or you're the rock, you know? So you have to deal with things as they come. Expect the changes. Plan, 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 plan. I was a firefighter for 10 years. And people think that it's like you just run a building. No, everything is a pre-plan.
Right.
Nothing goes as planned, but everything is a pre-plan. You know, they check out a building. Okay, this is how we're going to hit the hydrant. This is we're going to go into the standpipe system. This is how we're going to attack it based on what floor it's on. And of course, it's going to change. Every scenario is going to be different every day, every hour, depending on millions of variables. But if you have a plan, you've already worked through X% of it. And over communication, like I said about the small businesses, private businesses, we never had job descriptions. I only knew what they were because I was stuck doing them. So as I was going through them, I wrote it up. I'm like, what do I do every day? I don't know. You know, and somebody asked me what my job title was. I didn't have one until I was president. You know, I don't know. I make sure the buses get out every day, whether I'm in my dress and washing a bus or I don't know what, it doesn't matter. We're just getting the job done. But changing from that reactive to proactive. And you need the right people to have that. And people work better and feel more comfortable when they know what's expected of them and what we need from them. So communication and planning, including your own stuff. Make your time to make a life. Make your time to make a life. I was working 12 to 16 hours a day. And every day, one of my guys was like, more hours is not better for you or the company. And I was a quick learner. So it only took me, you know, like 10 or 12 years before I caught on. But I caught on.
Very, very, very well said. And so the future, you know, are there innovations that you're thinking of? What, Dennis, as you look at Mikula, what do you and your family think about the future? Do you have any new innovations or other things that you're looking at going forward?
Every day. I mean, I think that's part of, you know, the growth mindset, you know, different things, you know, different revenue streams, you know, different avenues, you know, for us to, you know, how do we expand our business, you know, or an arm of our business that's something, you know, similar to what we do, you know, which is offer a different product, a different service out there. So I think that's an ongoing thing. That's part of what I guess, you know, one of the roles, like Courtney said, other than, you know, our actual titles, you know, is business development. Okay, we're providing this service. One of our clients needs this service. Can we also provide that for them? You know, I think that's growth, you know, what we're looking to, you know, innovation, you know, in the construction industry is where it's come from, where I, as a kid, to now with the satellites, the GPS and everything. I think just keeping up with all of that, you know, is a lot, you know, whether it's our computer systems, whether it's our job trackers, every different things we do. You know, I'm always trying to stay ahead of the curve. And every time you research something, it's 3 steps ahead of you. So I think that's part of what, you know, what we're looking into.
Well, you mentioned the growth mindset. And so again, Professor Livingood, Scott and I were talking yesterday, I think it was, about the fix. They have something called the fixed mindset, which is basically, you know, nothing's going to change. And you have the growth mindset, which is individual and I can grow and so on. But then we talk about the entrepreneurial mindset, is that the growth mindset, you grow yourself, which is essential, but the entrepreneurial mindset is you want to grow your business. Right. And so what, you know, we're trying to help people through that process. And it's actually very helpful as you were trying to look at even the next leaders in your organization. So Ryan, what about you? What's in the future? You have a lot of different holdings and real estate is, you know, this is an interesting time for real estate.
Yeah. Thinking ahead, I think I speak for more than just myself when I say that we want to continue to get better. I know the word growth is the most commonly used one when the question of the future comes up, but improvement, I mean, is really the focus in the short to long term future even. I'm now trying to reinvent the wheel. There's so many great aspects of our company that have been established, 3/4 of a decade, 3/4 of a century ago, and still are the pillars of our company today. So, but I'm also not trying, as Courtney had said, I'm not trying to be the rock. Definitely maintaining that fluid nature and staying like water to take shape around whatever comes our way is certainly important. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm sure we all do. You wake up every day and you've got 3 billion ideas running through your head, and you want so desperately to even see just a couple of them come to fruition. So I've certainly got my brain filled with thoughts and ideas, but right now I'm just focused on doing my best as part of a bigger team to just keep on improving every day. I know that's kind of a boring answer, but it's the truth.
It's the truth. It's the truth. And so according to the bus industry, in fact, I think the governor of New Jersey talked about some electric buses that they're putting in, and so there's a lot of changes. So what about you? What's the future of Villani Bus Company?
Keep on rolling along, slow and steady. Be the tortoise, right? A lot of people, when you're speaking about growth, Ryan, fast growth is easy, but substantiated growth is difficult, and that takes work and time. So, piacere, just step by step, little bit by little bit, and not biting off more than you can chew. And in fact, if you would ask me how many vehicles we had earlier, you asked me that, and I think I had a number in my head, right? But we had downsized since in the past couple of years, trying to make it make sense for the business. And if you would ask me 10 years ago if I wanted to do that, I would have been like, absolutely not. We want to take over the world, right? But you want to do things well. Safety, number one priority. I really believe for school bus transportation, it should be hyper local. I think the electric bus situation is a real tangible thing that's happening in real time right now, and it'll happen to districts. It'll happen for airports, shuttles, transit, things like that. It is not anywhere near feasible yet for contractors, private contractors. There's one small private contractor in the state, one.
Wow.
Who ordered a couple. And the order doesn't mean it's actually going to happen and come to fruition, because you have to have your infrastructure in place first. And there's a lot of hoops to jump through to get there. So it's not as easy as just, getting a Tesla and a charging station, right? So it's a whole different thing. And to be honest, they don't have it really, they don't have the future of what to do with disposing the batteries or anything like that yet. Nothing's set up. So, it's happening. And alternative sources of fuel are important to have and look into, always have to look with an open eye and say, okay, what's next? What's new? What am I not doing? And sometimes different technologies, people are always coming at you with some kind of, gadget or gizmo that's I'm gonna make your contracting business easy. All you have to do is, right? You're like, oh, thanks. Appreciate that. We got that covered, so it's whatever it is, it's always, you just have to look at things, give it time to soak in and see what's happening for the future. My son's 3.5. I want to make my business viable today, tomorrow, and in the future. Should he decide to go this route, good on him, or he's crazy enough to do it, I don't know. And if he doesn't, I'm happy to support him going into a normal business. That's totally fine. Absolutely, whatever it is,
So Goodwin, we're almost at the end of time, but I'd like you each to go, if you could give your website, because your businesses are so fascinating, so people can find your website. So Dennis, we'll start with you. Give your website and talk about some of your community service initiatives. I have to step away just for a second, but your website and community service initiatives, and I'll be right back.
Sure. Our website is mccoola.inc.com. So one of the things that I'm involved with, right now I'm on the board of directors with our land improvement contractors, and we have an apprentice program that we're getting off the ground. And again, we were all talked about the labor shortage that's out there. So we're trying to provide an avenue to get more people involved, as laborers, as equipment operators. So we're reaching out. Dale and I have been working, and we've been reaching different towns, different districts, trade schools to kind of promote within the construction industry to help people kind of like, a different avenue, because right now there's opportunity in the construction industry. And I'm sure in each of, in all of our industries, there's a lot of opportunity right now. We were kind of talking a bit before. So that's one of the things I'm really working hard with now with a bunch of business owners, land improvement contractors, just like ourselves, to get people working right now, and give an opportunity to train them, safety training, how to read blueprints, right? How to operate equipment, how to maintain equipment. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of people out there. So right now, that's one of the initiatives that we're really putting a lot of effort to. So that's where we are.
In our 100th year, I made it a personal goal for our Villani Bus family employees to donate and volunteer over 100 hours to our local food banks and other local service centers. And people signed up to volunteer of their own personal time. And we not just met the 100-hour goal, but over doubled that. And of course, naturally, I compensated them for their time, but I wanted it to come from a good place, come from the right place, right? So I called it our Villani Bus 100-year volunteers. We do whatever we can, whenever we can, local police, fire, and service organizations, just like I'm sure you all do. Yesterday, we were proud to donate services to have our veterans moved around to over a dozen memorials in town in Linden, so that they could pay tribute to our veterans on Veterans Day, which is something we try to do every year with them, but can never do enough.
That's great. So the website is www.sanzari.com. We after COVID or in the heart of COVID, our foundation has been very active with local schools and doing whatever we can to get the students, the proper equipment, school supplies. A lot of students were not equipped to learn remotely at that time, and still very much are. So, doing our best to try and put a little dent in that initiative, and also working with Care Plus, who is a foundation that I sit on the board of, and they focus on mental health and substance abuse, and they're just a great, incredible organization. So just a couple things that we're doing right now, but can always be doing more for sure.
Well, first, again, this is just a wonderful session. I want to thank you all, the three of you. I want to thank our audience. We're at the end of time. This goes really quickly, and we will continue to talk. You're doing great work. Keep going, and let's all just support family businesses. Let's really try to make, it's the backbone of America, really the backbone of the world. And so thank you all for all that you're doing. Take care, and we will see everybody next week. Sue, were you able to get a screenshot? I don't know if Sue's able to get a screenshot, but we'll get that for all three of their PR. So all right, well, take care.
Thank
And,
you.
Thank you,
see you
guys.
next week.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.